I don't work here, lady. Story 1. Yeah, he's my husband. So my husband and I are in an interracial relationship, which is not extremely common in our country due to our history, but there are more and more interracial couples out there each day. For context, due to cultural history in our country, some people are more inclined to accept same-sex relationships over interracial. No one makes a public deal about same-sex relationships, but there are instances of interracial relationships between popular figures that are heavily criticized by people. Anyway, so my husband and I are walking by my favorite stationery store. And I'm like a kid in a candy store, walking down every single aisle and pointing out things I want to buy, explaining why, and just generally sharing with my husband, who is walking a step back from me with the trolley, just lazily following me down each aisle, patiently listening to what I have to say, because he's amazing, lol. He then got distracted down one of the aisles with some gadget, and I just continued down the next aisle when this lady starts following behind, and I kind of just ignored her. Maybe it's not relevant, but she's the same race as my husband. So she walks up to me eventually, and I start walking back to find my husband, and she starts rambling off without a hitch about how she's looking for this specific item, and when she's done, I just look at her and go, "Sorry, I don't work here," and she goes all red in the face and says, "Well, I saw you helping that gentleman and you look like you know what you're doing, so I thought you worked here," and I go, "Well, yeah, he's my husband," and shocked and clearly embarrassed, she just looked at me, mumbled sorry and walked away. Meanwhile, my hubby heard the whole thing and is laughing his ass off at the whole thing. Story 2. Walking a lady around work after I clock out. So this happened a little bit ago. I was working at Walmart during the evening shift, 1 to 10 p.m. shift. I've seen a lot of crap while I worked there. When you work there, the people of Walmart honestly become ingrained in your memory. So this one night I clock out and am shopping around a bit before I go home, still wearing my vest, but wearing a coat over it. It's when I see this really gentle old lady who is walking around. She sees that I'm wearing my vest and asks me in a very polite yet delightfully southern sassy way, "Excuse me, young man, can you help me find the hairspray?" Now, I didn't work the floor, but work anywhere long enough and you'll know where a fair bit of stuff is. I decided that I can spare a few minutes and tell her, "Of course, it's over in pharmacy, I can show you if you'd like." She took me up on the offer and I helped her find the hairspray as we talked. She was a hoot. She was telling me about how she was a retired police officer back in the day and how she was riding with a local biker club. I know them, they are super nice people with a lot of older people. I help her find a handful of other things as we just talk. She told me about her late husband, who was always the best little crap to her, and that she still loves him and can't wait to meet him after. She was really happy talking about him. She also told me about her daughter's wedding the week before and how she's going to have a nephew soon. After a bit of the amazing conversation, she says that she was going to check out and thanked me repeatedly, and I told her how I was happy to help and was going home myself. She looked a bit embarrassed that I was actually clocked out, but I shot that down with being really happy to just talk with her and thanked her for keeping me company. I know it's not like the other stories of self-entitled rude people, but it was a really nice and I wanted to share. Story 3. Almost sold a rabbit to someone while applying for a job. So, I'm betting on the general assumption that someone in dress clothes being mistaken for a store employee. In fact, I was actually applying for a job at this store, so I was also a guy in dress clothes, typing away at a computer console. So, double threat for being mistaken as an employee. So, I was hammering away on my application, which basically consisted of me copying my info from a random job application I carried with me to copy what I hadn't memorized, and I was making alright progress. Then someone asked, "Can I ask you a question about these rabbits?" I've had rabbits before as pets, so I didn't mind giving her some info just because she asked. So, I continued with my application and she continued to admire and talk to the rabbits. She asked me another few questions as I continued and was basically ready to adopt this pet, just from my help. As I finished applying, and started to put my things away, she asked if she could hold a rabbit she was interested in and was shocked when I told her I didn't work there. I walked up to the counter, got the attention of an employee and had him take over helping the lady. She didn't end up going for this rabbit as a pet, but she made sure to tell them I almost made a sale. I didn't get an interview, but had I got one, I had a funny story ready to tell if I did. Story 4. Lady, not only do I not work here, I pay to be here. 2 things to know about medical school in the US. 1. It's insanely expensive, $250,000 per degree. And 2. We do a bunch of mandatory rotations through certain specialties where we're usually treated like garbage. That also includes OBGYN. When I trained, OBGYN was, famously known as the specialty that eats its young. For a specialty that brings life in the world, they definitely did their best to suck mine out of me. Who knows, maybe it changed in recent years. Anyway, that's the setting. I'm in the labor unit working night shifts, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The residents, training doctors, and attendings, practicing doctors, in charge of the team, have made it clear to me that in the hierarchy of importance, I am beneath the trash can, so I'm stuck there for 12 hours avoiding them when they're stressed and trying to help to the degree I don't piss anyone off. Lady comes rolling in with 2 other people, and one of the residents tells me to go see her. Me, "Hi, I'm Is That Really Butter, the medical student with the labor and delivery unit. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions?" Patient, "Just give me a moment. I need to check your aura." Me, "What?" Side note, I pride myself now on having an amazing poker face, in part because of some batshit things I experienced in medical school. This was one of them. Patient, "Your aura. I detect oranges and yellows. You're an optimist, aren't you? I need that right now. Come in, come in." Me, thank you mom. I was young and innocent and didn't leave immediately, but my woo-woo senses were screaming. I go through my typical questions about her pregnancy and labor so far, then I ask the dangerous question, do you have a birth plan? She pulls out the laminated binder, opens it, and proceeds to walk me through her incredibly long list of requests, including, no lights, no medications for herself or the baby, no epidurals, regular meditation, keep the placenta, oil diffuser, etc. I think at some point the nurses felt pity on me and one came in to check in. Patient Laura checked her too, she was purple, which I don't know what that meant, but she was in. Nurse got pulled into her long explanation of her pink laminated birth Bible. Nurse, Mom, thank you for showing this to us, but I think you should discuss this with the doctors because some of your wishes we can do, but some we might not be able to meet depending on how your labor goes. Patient, well, I paid good money to be here. I pay for all of you to be here. You can make it happen. Eventually I talk her into letting me have it to show it to the doctor and we step out the room. Nurse leaves, very ominously saying, she is going to be special. For the next few hours, her room turned into a revolving door as the patient proceeds to hire and fire people based on their auras. How this lady read them, I have no clue, but she ended up firing 4 nurses, 2 residents, a tech, and the janitor because some of them were radiating bad energy, and one was too red. She absolutely refused to have any discussion about her birth plan or give any leeway with it because it was decided with her spiritual guru. No one wanted to talk to her because she was too woo-woo. So clearly I'm stuck going into her sage-scented room to appease her whims, including cleaning her stuff, refilling her oil diffuser, rubbing tea tree oil on weird places, helping her in her yoga positions. Then the labor pain really kicked in. And suddenly, morphine was okay in her birth plan because it was a natural remedy. And the anesthesiologist's piercing green aura was tolerable because he mellowed into a soft matcha. Except, when you give too much morphine to a pregnant woman, the baby also gets it too, and the baby's heart rate was slowing. So I'm stuck telling her she can't get more morphine. Patient, oh thank goodness you're here. I need more morphine, I'm in so much pain. Me, Mom, I understand you're in pain. However, we can't give you any more. Your baby can't tolerate it. Patient, the baby is completely fine. I feel him, it's me you should be worried about. I'm the one paying to be here. I'm in pain. I need the morphine. Me, Mom, the anesthesiologist can discuss giving you an epidural for pain control. It'll be safer for both you and the baby and it'll control your pain. Patient, you want to put that toxin in my body? Didn't you read my birth plan? Absolutely not. I need the morphine. Again, I pay to be here. I pay for your salary. I hired you. Remember, I can fire you. You should be listening to me here. Me, in my 11th hour of being there, she broke me. Mom, with all due respect, I'm just the medical student. I don't get a salary. I actually pay to be here. Even if you fire me, your doctors, including your anesthesia team, is saying you cannot get more morphine because it is a danger to your baby. I'm sure that the anesthesiologists are happy to discuss any other options for your pain control, which includes an option for an epidural. Patient, fuck those toxins and fuck you. Get out. You're fired too. I knew you weren't a yellow. You were a chartreuse. So I got to go home and collapsed happily in bed. The next day, I check in and I got the full story from the nurses. Apparently, she cracked and got an epidural. Then she went into active labor and hated it so much she demanded it stop. She underwent general anesthesia for a C-section and delivered her baby. For the rest of the month I was there, all of us had little name tags with our aura colors on it. I was chartreuse. TL, DR aura reading lady fires me over morphine and ends up playing herself. Story 5. I was almost arrested because of a Kevin. This happened a couple months ago. To set the scene, I, 19M, was walking through the supermarket to grab some beers and snacks. I was dressed in a dark blue shirt, so I see why he mistook me for an employee. This middle-aged looking man dressed like Jerry from Rick and Morty approached me and demanded I go get him his groceries and shoved his grocery list at me. I tried to say, I don't work here, but before I could say the word, work, he said, go do it. All you lazy employees say the same things. I hand him his grocery list back and go to walk away, when he very aggressively grabbed my shoulder and spins me around. To combat this, while still spinning I get a punch, palm square on his nose. The palm wasn't super hard, but he exaggerated it by going backwards into the shelf, knocking everything over. He screams, assault, and quickly dials 911. Skip to when cops arrive, he starts immediately saying how when he politely asked for some help, I suddenly got hostile and punched him. Cops look at the camera footage, which unfortunately had no sound. At the angle we were at it appeared as though he had only tapped me on the shoulder. One of the officers went to put me in handcuffs, as it appeared that I hit him very hard. Luckily, he had squeezed my shoulder hard enough that it left a pretty good mark. I showed this mark, but the officers looked skeptical. I asked him to look closer at where his finger entered frame, and you could see that he grabbed and spun me around. You could see color drain from his face as he realized he was screwed. The cops didn't arrest him unfortunately, but they did chew him out pretty good. After that very long encounter, I finally went home and enjoyed some beers with my buds. Story 6. What is this stuff? He hissed menacingly. I was at my local discount store, just buying some discounts and other fun things, when I encountered someone who was absolutely transfixed on a bag of something he'd apparently never seen before. He looked at me, and with the strangest combination of confusion and delight, he hissed, "What is this stuff?" He was holding a bag of birdseed. "Birdseed," I calmly told him. He looked confused. "Food for birds." "It's food?" he asked, looking strangely excited about this information. "For birds, yes. I suppose you could eat it, but I'm not sure what you get from it." I paused, read the label to him, and before I could get through the list, he interrupts me. "I'm gonna eat it," he announced, grabbing several bags off the shelf and hurrying off excitedly. I hope he enjoys his weird dinner. Story 7, Lord of the Rings Crystal Figurines. I, male, sci-fi and fantasy nerd, was wandering around my local mall, while waiting for my wife to finish clothes shopping with my daughter. They take forever trying things on. I noticed a new store that was filled with ceramic dragons, incense burners and lots of crystals. One display had little cut crystal Lord of the Rings figurines. I was checking them out when a young boy came up and asked if I could get down the Smaug dragon figure for him. I looked around and his mother was a few feet away and nodded that it was okay. They then went to the register at the back of the store to pay. I moved another dragon from the back of the shelf to fill in the gap. That's when a lurking Karen grabbed my hand while saying, "Now that you're done helping that child, I need you to get me down a castle incense burner right now. I don't have all day." She was not your typical looking Karen. About 5'10" and whipcord thin. She was black and dressed in a zebra-striped ensemble shirt, pants and matching shoes. As I tried to pull my hand away, I told her I don't work here and let go of my hand. She had a very strong grip. She got a very mad expression on her face and started rambling about me not wanting to help her because she was black. I repeated that I don't work here and she came back with, "I just saw you help that boy. Stop lying." Having had enough of this craziness, I jerked my hand forcefully away and unfortunately, she came along for the ride. I did mention that she had a very strong grip. She toppled over into the display of 5 shelves full of crystal. This finally got her to release my hand as she tried to stop her fall. I panicked and moved swiftly to the entrance and off in the direction of my wife and child. I've never been good with confrontation. As we were leaving the mall 20 minutes later, I saw the Karen arguing with 2 police officers and the shopkeeper. I didn't see any blood on her hands as she waved them in the officers' faces. So I guess she only hurt her pride. She was yelling that it was their other worker that shoved her into the display. The shopkeeper kept saying that there was no other worker. I also heard her tell one officer that they hadn't got the security cameras running yet as they had just opened. I hustled my family past before Karen noticed me. I know it wasn't my finest moment, but where do these Karens get off on putting their hands on people? I've never been back to that store. Thank you for watching.